The future of our country is incredibly important and we need to have a plan.
I'm appalled at the idea of nuclear power for Australia, but particularly in this area.
No one wants the waste in their backyard.
There's no information, there's no plan, there's no proposal. There's a, I will do this to your community.
Nuclear is the only option. It's the only one that's going to work.
Here in Victoria's Latrobe Valley, coal has been king for over a century.
I think our community is proud of that we've managed to keep the lights on in Victoria for over 100 years.
The region is home to 3 large brown coal power stations, all set to close in the next 10 years, as well as the decommissioned Hazelwood plant. While these sites are considered some of Australia's dirtiest, they've also brought prosperity to the region.
In the 70s and 80s, it was the joint was booming. We were still building brown coal power stations then, so there was construction, there was jobs, there was manufacturing jobs in the coal mines, in the power stations. And now that that's gone, there's a bit of a vacuum there.
This is a plan for our country which will underpin a century of economic growth and jobs for these communities.
The Valley has struggled to recover from the Hazelwood closure in 2017. Unemployment is double the Victorian regional average.
I'd really like to see a prosperous region where we had some optimism and we had some hope, but I'm not seeing with where we're going at the moment.
Ray Burgess worked as a supervisor for the old State Electricity Commission. When it was sold off, he bought the local newsagent. After seeing the town struggle, he's optimistic about the future with nuclear.
It would be a game changer. If this region were to embrace the nuclear technology, our university could embrace a school of nuclear engineering, for example, and we could become the experts in Australia in nuclear technology.
We have a vision for our country to deliver cleaner electricity, cheaper electricity and consistent electricity.
It's great that somebody's putting energy on the table, and let's have an adult discussion about what the future's going to look like.
Peter Sini runs Plastic Fabrications, a manufacturing factory 10 minutes away from the proposed nuclear site. His gas bills have doubled since 2020.
We're now paying around $38,000 a month. We were paying around $17,000 a month, and that's had a huge impact. It's very hard to continually chase your customers to put prices up where we've got no certainty about energy prices in the future.
If nuclear power was on the table, it's something his company would seriously consider.
There's a limit on how much gas we can use. Coal's going to be closed and shut down in the coming future, and the renewables aren't keeping up with demand. So nobody's talking about, well, what do we do to fill that gap? And for manufacturing, that's a really, really big question. We have to make strategic plans 5-10 years in advance.
According to the nuclear industry's own analysis, power stations take, on average, 9.4 years to build. But sites in the US and UK have blown out in time and budget. As this would be Australia's first build, experts say it will take much longer than a decade to get these sites up and running. Not to mention time needed for planning, design change and regulations to pass.
We want to utilise the end-of-life coal-fired power station sites because the poles and wires already exist.
But the earmarked nuclear site, Loy Yang Power Plant, won't be closing until 2035. And there are questions over whether the site is even viable.
AGL have already said nuclear won't work there. Every power station in Latrobe Valley has said nuclear won't work on those sites. And one of the things is because of earthquakes and because of the subsidence that happens across the valley.
The proposed site is 2 k's away from active fault lines, and that concerns locals.
I'm concerned about the potential for earthquakes.
In the last 10 years or so, there's 600 earthquakes that have been recorded in this region. What could go wrong with nuclear? Like, you just need a good earthquake and people within 30 kilometres are dead.
That's something they'll need to address in the consultation. Have they been built on fault lines anywhere else in the world? If they have, how do they do it? And what safeguards is there if this happens?
Mayor Darren Howe has served on the Latrobe Valley Council for almost 10 years. While he welcomes investment in the region, he has a lot of questions for the opposition.
I don't know how safe it is, I don't know the size of it, how long does it take to build, what are the environmental concerns. We really need to see that.
There'll be an engagement with those communities. Met with some mayors this morning where we were talking about the economic benefit to the local community.
Darren was not one of those mayors, but he welcomes Peter Dutton to the region.
Bring them down to Latrobe City where they can talk to our locals, they can learn firsthand of what their problems are. how they're feeling and what the issues may be.
We have beautiful sun, we have wind, we have everything we need today to actually give us a secure energy network.
Despite generations of her family living in the valley, nuclear would be the last straw.
I'm not comfortable keeping my family here. You can't live close to a nuclear plant. Loy Yang is within 5 kilometres of the town. Overseas, it has to be at least 10 miles, 16 kilometres away. Like, it's just nothing weighs up. Nothing has been looked at, nothing has been studied.
If the coalition plans to take nuclear to the polls, the people of Latrobe Valley have a message.
We don't need another dirty means of generating electricity. We have choices. We have resources. We don't need nuclear power.
Mr. Dutton, I don't know, so I'm saying no, exactly as you told me.
This community will fight it, but not only this community, the regions across Australia will fight it together, and Australians will stand with them. We won't go away.
Well, that's very clever. If you don't know, say no, throwing that back at them.
That suits this argument, doesn't it?
Sure does.
Like, people at my age, nuclear means nuclear war, nuclear spills at power plants, and The Simpsons. They're the three things. You know.
Totally. And it's one of those things where, does it have to be something we can have an adult conversation about? Yes. Are renewables going to give us everything we need right now? No. Are we always going to need some kind of baseload power? Yes. Is that gas? Is that nuclear? Do we have to hang on to coal for more than we want? It's got to be a mix of absolutely everything. But as soon as you step into this space, people really don't like it. And so it's like, can we ever really have an honest, all things out on the table conversation if it brings so much fear and uncertainty in people? And I don't know that we really can.
Yeah, well, probably not with me at the desk.
We'll leave you off the invite, mate.